how do we manage disaster? So that is our topic for today. And it's a really big topic. And the thing that I'm going to say, I'm going to give my disclaimers here, which is in managing a disaster, there are no one right way of doing anything. So this is me speaking very extemporaneously. And again, look it up. And then kind of personally. So I don't really have a professional opinion about all of this stuff, but just because, again, it's, I'm just a human being trying to figure this shit out just like the rest of y'all. And so yeah, so how do you manage a disaster? Well, so first off, you have to recognize that most times you're not in control of the disaster, and or you did not cause the disaster. Now if you cause disasters, I'm just going to look at you and say, please stop doing that. It's not helpful to anybody. But more than likely you didn't cause a disaster. Instead, someone else is either instigating it, or it's kind of a natural phenomenon or natural disaster kind of thing. And so how do you manage that? Well, in the moment, you do whatever you need to do to survive. And so a lot of times your brain will kind of go into disbelief mode. We also call it shock. And that's kind of expected because it's your brain kind of in overload and trying to process and trying to deal with what's going on. All the things that come after that, we've talked very. I talk a lot about post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic stress period, post-traumatic growth. And so I'll let y'all find the other podcasts and videos where we talk about that stuff. But I feel very kind of socio-politically that when it comes to kind of man-made disasters or man-influenced disasters, there's a certain responsibility that we have that we're not using. So when something bad happens, we go, oh man, that's unbelievable. And then we kind of pseudo collectively mourn and go, wow, let's kind of get together. And then we kind of don't do anything after that. And it's interesting because there's a phenomenon called learned helplessness, is where you start to believe that you can't affect change because you have learned that trying doesn't get a result. And after you do that a few times, you just go, well, nothing's going to change. And I don't even know what we're going through as a society is learned helplessness. And it's not fully apathy either, because apathy is where you literally just don't care. And I think people do care. It's this weird hybrid of apathy, learned helplessness, and distraction, and then entitlement. Because I feel very strongly, and I've seen this, where I've heard very well-meaning people, and they'll be like, hey, I want to go do something. And then they try it, they'll have a seminar online, they'll do a podcast, they will do a march. And then if the results they get aren't what they wanted to get, they kind of just go, well, then it's not worth it. It didn't work, and I'm not going to do that again. And I'm like, y'all, I mean, change, number one, change is hard. Number two, building a movement is even harder, and building a sustainable movement is literally like running a business. Like, just because you go out and march one time is not going to be enough. Just because you write a tweet that goes viral, it is not enough. Just because you wish something to happen is not enough. You have to work at this shit. Like, you have to work at the idea of change being something that you have to maintain and do maintenance on. It's not a one-off kind of thing. And so so unfortunately during disasters, that's kind of what happens. We will mourn. We'll have some discussions about something, and people will say something, and we'll call for gun reform, or we'll call for an investigation into the insurrection or whatever. And then, and people will be, have their righteous fury online, and then it'll fizzle out. And then we will go back into this weird kind of stasis mode until this happens again. And I don't want this to ever happen again. Dead children is a bad thing, y'all. It's like a super bad thing. And I don't want this to happen again, but it will if we don't build sustainable changes, if we don't build sustainable movements to affect wide scale change. As you can tell, how over calm I am. So don't get it twisted. I am furious. When I say I'm furious, I have no words for the anger that I feel. I'm just really good at sublimating it. Sublimation meaning taking those unwanted impulses and trying to turn them into something positive. In fact, that's where I'm running. That's where that comes from. So I'm running for school board. I wore the T-shirt just for the today's episode because I'm trying to channel it into something positive. Now, running for office is exhausting, and you don't get the one off. Like I can write a really good speech and give it one time, but that's not politics. You have to like keep doing it. We keep knocking doors and texting people and calling people and and that's a lot. Same thing with, okay, I want to start a nonprofit to deal with gun reform. Okay, well, you started, and then you have to have a board, and then you have to file all your paperwork, and then you have to have board meetings with minutes, and then you have to find a source of funding, and then you have to court that source of funding, and you have to write grants, and you never get your grant the first time you ever apply unless you hire a grant writer, but they cost money, and money, it takes money to make money, and so all of this stuff is a process, and I think we've lost our patience for process. In fact, I know we have, and I think it goes back to our tablet mentality. You know, we push a button on the tablet and then something happens, and that's not how life generally works. And so, especially not now. And so, yeah. So, how should you handle disasters? Well, I've written a couple articles, and so I'm going to throw out the TEAM acronym again. So TEAM, right? So T meaning time. What are you spending your time on? So I always encourage you to do an inventory of your time. Sit down, look at your day, and see where you're devoting your time. A lot of, oftentimes, you're devoting a lot of time to things that kind of don't matter, right? Distraction is being on your phone and sitting and, watching fluff TV, that sort of thing. And so decide to take 30 minutes or an hour of your time each day to do something meaningful and do something to help someone else, right? E is either effort or energy. So what are you directing your energy or effort towards? Most times you're at work. So work and school take up most people's day, and then family time takes up another family and friend time, depending on if you have, if you're married or have kids. But there is some space in the week where you can do something for someone else that involves your energy or your effort. Okay. And I don't know if that's knocking doors, because that's what you have to do in politics. I don't know if that's manning or staffing, I should say, a health booth, if that's reading the newspaper and doing research so that misinformation and disinformation aren't causing you to say stupid things online, because people say stupid shit online all the time. I'm blown away at how people act online. And maybe it's your energy and your effort is getting offline and going and meeting people, because in person, people don't say those things. People don't act that way. It's the funniest thing. So yeah, so that's time, energy, or effort. A is attention. So everybody has some form of social media. You have a social media account either on the Book of Faces that Mark Zuckerberg owns, or Twitter, or LinkedIn, or Reddit, or Substack, or Instagram, or Snap, or wherever. You have an account somewhere, and you have a platform, and you have a network, and using your network for good instead of for evil is incredibly helpful. So when you hear of good things happening, when people are doing good things, when there's a bake sale or cookie sale, or your neighbor's kid made straight A's, put it out on your network. Putting out positive things into the universe is how we get positive things back. And so A is attention. And please know that those algorithms, this is why they're dangerous or helpful. The algorithms of social media amplify the things that people want to see. So if you put more good stuff out there and people want to see more good stuff, the good stuff will be amplified. So in other words, social media is giving back to us what we give to it. And then the last is money, because money is how we have imbued money with value as a society, because we're a capitalist society. And so where you put your money, how you spend your money is super important. And so I always encourage y'all, please don't give it to Amazon. Please don't give it to Walmart. Target, Target. That one's hard because they do good stuff sometimes. Shop local if you can. And nowadays there's local everything. Local co-ops for food, local services, local assistance, local marketing, local CPAs, local lawyers. You can do everything locally. And so I'm going to encourage you to spend your money locally so that then there's a connection between you and your community instead of the money leaving your community and going somewhere else. And so that's what the TEAM acronym stands for: TEAM, time, energy / effort, attention, and money. And so how do we manage a disaster is you go into your own individual prayer closet, and you figure out how you are going to give back in a team-based way. How are you going to contribute to society as a team? And you have to do all four of those things. You juggle them, do what you need to do, because the society won't get better. Disasters won't stop happening until you do that part. There is no super person to swoop down and make huge social change. It just does not happen. And if you're waiting on that, you're going to be waiting forever. And by that time, the planet will be too warm and we will all be super crispy because this whole damn thing will be on fire. And so I'm going to encourage you that if you want to stop the next disaster, do your individual team work.